On today's episode of Newsflash, we have a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about Donald Trump's top aide, Hicks, just testing positive as we come on the air for coronavirus. Also, Trump sowing doubts on mail-in voting, unequal union support, and we talk about the effects of this awful coronavirus recession and how they may not be as even as we think. My name is Spencer Walsh, once again welcoming you to episode 438 of Newsflash today. Really appreciate you being with us today. And, I did kind of wait a little bit to do the show because very, very tempting, with a big event going on to try and rush in to get all the best coverage and really get in on that. But we do kind of have a little bit of a better situation by having the show, just deciding to have the show on Thursday, and actually being able to talk about much better stuff because that debate did suck. And I mean, honestly, it probably will have almost certainly will have no effect on the outcome of the election, and neither will any of the debates. So that is my kind of cheat sheet hack for you. As if you care about politics, just remember the debates do not matter. Anyway, we're going to get right into it and talk about Hicks. As Hicks is now she's back in the White House, in case you forgot. She's one of the president's closest aides. Because she left, she came back now. Hicks serves as a counsel to the president, and she traveled with him to the rally on Wednesday, tested positive Thursday, according to an administration official. She spoke on the condition of anonymity. So she probably took it at least, 2 days? I mean, probably less, but yeah. So she took the test maybe Wednesday, kept going, I don't even know if she had symptoms. Maybe she was doing to be careful. Probably was. But yeah, took the test, hung out with him for 2 more days, and at least, maybe less, I don't know, and now has tested positive. So the virus... So the White House did not, I guess you could say the White House right now is the virus. That's deep. But she's the closest aide to Trump test positive so far, for sure. The White House did not immediately respond to multiple requests about the last time Trump was tested and whether he and other staffers who spent time with Hicks in recent days will be asked to quarantine. And honestly, I feel like if someone in a man as clearly as poor health as Boris Johnson can get it, comes so close to dying and then survive, it is kind of like the odds don't look good here for possibly Trump getting it or something like that. There's some crazy thing like that happening in the election, but still, like this again, it shows you. I mean, honestly, it sounds awful to kind of like wish the virus on anyone, but I mean, look at who we're talking about here. Like this is the reason why we like Trump is the reason why we still have this problem in a large part. The reason why we still have this problem in the way that we do. So, I mean, like that's probably the most defensible person you could wish coronavirus on. Although, I mean, I wouldn't really wish it on anybody else, for sure. I think Trump and at least the people around him. I mean, if that's what comes their way after if they reap what they've sowed, then they reap what they sow. That's my take on that. But I mean, yeah, she traveled with the president multiple times this week, including to Marine One, and she was also aboard Air Force One for the debate. Hicks is one of the president's most trusted aides. She previously served as White House comms director and rejoined the administration this year ahead of the election. Her first positive test was reported by Bloomberg News. White House staffers have tested positive with the virus, including Katie Miller, Vice President Mike Pence's press secretary, National Security Advisor Robert O'Brien, and one of the president's personal valets. After earlier positive cases close to the president, the White House instituted a daily testing regimen for the president's senior aides. Others who will be in close proximity to the president and vice president, including reporters, are also tested every day. So, yeah, they get a pretty good backup. They get a pretty good, strong testing regimen. So hopefully she'll make it I think she'll end up being fine. She's young. She's probably going to get some good health care. She's from Greenwich, so she's not going to be like, it's not like she's struggling to pay the bills on her own. So yeah. But hopefully she's able to recover in roughly in a fair way and doesn't spread it to too many people who are just kind of along for the ride there in the White House. But now, again, do want to get into more election news here, as Philadelphia voters will soon hear a familiar election year sound at the front door. The of a Democratic official knocking on the door. Anybody home? Checking in for their support. The message they hear, though, might take them by surprise. After a months-long effort to get voters to embrace mail-in voting, Democrats in Philadelphia will push the supporters to vote in person if they have not already requested a ballot. The sudden shift in tactics in the biggest city in Pennsylvania, a critical swing state, reveals unease over President Trump's war on mail-in voting and a rash of court rulings that are still altering the regulations that will govern how ballots are cast and counted in November. The only secure thing is to walk to the polls, put your mask on, bring some hand sanitizer, and just go vote, says Bob Brady, former congressman and chairman of the Philadelphia Democrats. I mean, to be honest, he's probably right about that. Like, with the situation that we're currently dealing with, so many people have already tried mail-in voting. So many people hopefully have done it successfully. But there cannot be. I mean, it's honestly one of the few like actually smart things the Democrats are doing here, like planning ahead and getting people to actually embrace mail-in voting, because there is like, it's not at all dramatic. It's not at all hyperbolic to say that there is largely a BS war, a propaganda campaign being waged by the President of the United States and his very, very powerful allies, and it's being backed up by a judiciary that has lurched right over the past 4 years. And a Supreme Court that is about to lurch right with the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett. I mean, that is, like, you cannot deny that there has been a massive effort, a massive push to really drill down people's credibility on mail-in voting. I think if you see the shifts in polling, I mean, I haven't checked it, but I'm sure it will back that up, because it's not good. And I mean, I hope, especially in these kind of key areas like Philadelphia, they're really going to need to make sure they get all the support they can at Philadelphia, because that state is going to be probably one of the closest states in the nation. It's a swing state. I believe it went to Trump last time. And they're going to really need to win it back. I mean, literally last weekend, I was driving through kind of a more rural Pennsylvania, kind of a little bit more in the, well, our destination was Lancaster's, and we're coming from New York. So if you know Pennsylvania, you can kind of put out, kind of figure out the areas we're in. Like, it was kind of rural to suburban area. Trump signs 80-20 over Kamala Harris and Joe Biden in the primary battle. I mean, who even knows? But like, people there, like, it's very, very, really all you can judge is by enthusiasm, and people in that area, the places that we drove through, in this past weekend when I was down in Pennsylvania, are very, very, very excited to go vote for Trump. That is for sure. Trump flags, Trump signs everywhere. You almost very, very, very common. So Trump won Pennsylvania by 44,000 votes. So whatever it is, it's going to be very, very close. There's going to be a lot of that, and a lot of that population density in Philadelphia, and that's why they're really, again, trying to squeeze every last bit of support they can out of it. So yeah, this is Bob Brady, a former congressman and chairman of Philadelphia Democrats, talking, saying, quote, "This president is going to do everything he can to fight any state or any city that it has an overwhelming vote against him. And we will have an overwhelming vote against him, and will be in his crosshair." So that's how he can target it. And I mean, really, if he can go against some of the more suspect city votes, maybe somebody like didn't put their ballot, like some BS mail-in voting envelope technicality that they can do. Like, they didn't put the inner envelope in correctly, they didn't put the outer envelope, they didn't mark it right, whatever. it was a massive, it's going to be a massive legal battle. So that's why it makes sense. And it probably will be easier to do in the cities as opposed to the more rural, less spread out areas that Trump's more likely to win anyway. So if he can really squeeze the support out of places like Philadelphia and Pennsylvania, if you can really cut down on those votes and on that source of support, that is how he can make the best possible path to security in those states. And that's what's going to probably draw the most amount of ire possible, and I think rightfully so, from people in the Democratic Party. So that is definitely what we're looking at here. Democrats, though, they have nationally not abandoned their efforts to vote by mail, largely because their electoral fortunes are wedded to the process. Democrats vastly outnumber Republicans in absentee ballot requests in key battleground states. In Pennsylvania, nearly 1.5 million Democrats have requested a mail-in ballot, 3 times the number of requests from Republicans, who probably, again, in that state, doesn't mean there are 3 times more Republicans in Pennsylvania. It just means more of them are going to be voting in person because they're less scared of the virus. Since Wisconsin began mailing absentee ballots on September 16th, nearly all the state's counties that voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016 have returned a higher amount of ballots at a higher rate than the counties that backed Trump. Many state parties and officials continue to view voting by mail as essential amid the coronavirus pandemic, which is actually absolutely and completely and totally fair, because it should be. In a normal, healthy country where we had someone who actually was invested about democracy first, kind of I don't know, in the way Al Gore was in 2000, although I think it was kind of bad because he gave up there. But, if we had someone who's actually kind of invested in democracy first and actually just hey, may not win, I still think I'm going to win, but let's just have let's just have the safest election possible, and let's not just try and cast as much, doubt as we can. I mean, sure, there's going to be problems with mail-in voting. It is a system designed to handle, a small fraction of the votes it's going to get. So even with that, there are most likely going to be problems with mail-in voting. And how about we actually devote our time to fixing those problems before the election? I mean, this is how you know they're doing this for political purposes, not, again, because they genuinely care about mail-in voting. They would actually be trying to fix the problems. They would actually be trying to make the situation better if they wanted if they actually wanted good mail-in voting. No, the Republicans want to get rid of mail-in voting because it is advantageous to them, or because it is not advantageous to them, and they don't care. It's the hands down safest way to vote in the middle of the pandemic, and that arguably, if we were going to be super safe here, everybody should be voting as much as possible by mail, but it is. That is the truth there. And there is no justification. There should be no way for Trump to just turn around and be yeah, I really do care about mail-in voting. I really want to, but it's just not safe. There are many problems with it. It's riddled with fraud like you've never seen, folks. No, that is a BS talking point in the extreme because of the fact that if they actually cared and if they actually recognized that this is the best way to go in a pandemic, that, by the way, again, they spent the last 6 months trying to tell you just doesn't exist, then they would actually be trying to fix it, not trying to destroy it, which I think it's totally fair. It's totally fair to want to go fix mail-in voting because of the fact that of course there's going to be problems. Of course there's going to be inefficiencies. There's going to be maybe some mistakes because it is a system that is getting exponentially more votes than it normally gets. Think about that. Any system under that amount of stress isn't going to function at its best. And should there be reforms probably made for that? Sure, there should. But do the Trump administration care about that? No, because they're doing it for political purposes. Many states and parties, again, they continue to view voting by mail as essential amid this pandemic. Joe Biden's campaign is still encouraging its supporters to vote by mail and to know their options. That includes have a plan to vote and to know their options, and that includes voting by mail. But And again, this is kind of a really interesting thing about that is the kind of the rap on the door. That is also gone from the Biden campaign, which I think is far more worrying because the Trump campaign is doing that. They're getting out there calling, and they're absolutely